Do not give in to your weaker self.
Welcome to Agency for Change, a podcast from KidGlov that brings you the stories of changemakers who are actively working to improve our communities. In every episode, we'll meet with people who are making a lasting impact in the places we call home.
Hey everyone, this is Lynn Weinman, president of KidGlov. Welcome back to another episode of Agency for Change podcast. Today we are diving deep into the world of ethical fashion with a remarkable guest, Brooke Mullen. She's the founder, designer, and CEO of Sapahn handbags. Brooke's journey with Sapahn is way more than just about fashion. If you follow this brand, you know they are about empowering global communities and championing human rights, which is something you don't hear a lot in the fashion industry. From their roots as a bridge to a better world to becoming Nebraska's most recent certified B Corporation, Sapahn's journey is one of finding beauty and resilience and empowerment. Brooke, I can't wait to talk to you today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I know you're in Miami. I'm in Nebraska. I bet your weather's a lot warmer than mine.
It is warmer. It definitely is warmer when we're not getting all the crazy weather that you're getting, but I think soon enough that will be reversed.
Sounds good. Since you have Nebraska history, you know we have to talk about the weather first. But now let's talk about Sapahn. I'd love to have you start by telling us about the brand you have created.
Yes, well, such a pleasure. I'm going to start by maybe, as women, we've all can probably relate to being on the hunt for that perfect bag, that perfect
Brooke,
handbag.
I'm on the hunt right now. And when we're done, I'm going to ask you some questions. So, all right. Sorry to interrupt you. Keep going. But yes, I understand.
We can all relate to that, right? And we can relate to the thoughtful designs and just okay, we dream about all the amazing pockets and the lining that's colorful and not black where you can't find anything, and not something that has flashy logos, but something really understated that we can have forever and so timeless.
Yes.
And so that is Sapahn. Sapahn is known for our buttery soft leather, thoughtful designs, just something very timeless. And I think having a bag also, in different things, we don't shy away from compliments as women.
Right.
And oftentimes when somebody compliments you on your bag or your whatnot, you're like, oh my God, I got it on sale. Let me tell you the best deal I got.
Yeah.
And so Sapahn totally changes that, because there's something so special and so powerful about the story behind that beautiful thing that you're holding, that beauty that you carry. And that's all in the craft of how Sapahn bags are made, who they're made by, and the mission that Sapahn's about, which Sapahn means bridge in Thai. And so we empower rural artisans all throughout Thailand and really are trying to flip the script on fashion and really going directly to the source of the people that make our bags and really championing them as a whole part of a whole brand. And so when you buy something from Sapahn, you're buying something that really is something that you can hold with pride and because of how it's been made and the whole process. So that is Sapahn.
I love it. I love it. You had me at buttery soft leather. I'm like, yes, please. And the understanding of, yes, let's please not have the black liner where I can't find my pen or my lipstick or any of the things. So I appreciate that so much. But then as you dive into the story, it makes it so much better. So I'm really curious. What inspired you to start Sapahn, and how do you see the power of businesses like this creating positive change? Because that's so much of the great part of your story.
It truly is. And the more I've been down this road, I'm like, wow, we have a huge opportunity to create massive, massive change and mobilize people in the most beautiful way that honors people. And we get to win as business owners because you're really tapping into human potential in a different way. So the interesting story of how Sapahn came to be, in the short, it's a long journey, but I'll try to shorten it. It all started, I was living in Thailand doing master's in human rights. I just had gotten married to another Nebraska guy, and he was also doing his PhD in human rights.
I love it.
I found myself in working at the United Nations on human trafficking. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with this degree, like what tangible impact I was going to make. I'm not an academic like my husband was going to be. But there was a culmination of a lot of experiences, but that happened to create Sapahn as it is today. But the person that started it all gave me this inspiration. This idea was this girl named Mary Tu from Burma. She's in Myanmar. I meet her as my husband was doing research, and she was bright. She was like so socially like intelligent. Her story was challenging. She was, working 6 days a week, maybe even 7, supporting her mom at a very young age. She was survival, prostitution on the side, make ends meet. But the girl was so brilliant. She knew how to make connections. She knew how to make the systems work. And when I asked her, what gets you out of this cycle of poverty? She looked at me and said, education. Quick, hands down, no question.
She knew it.
I'm thinking she knew it because in a whole, caste system of women are, second class, there's not a lot of opportunity. And then she doesn't have family and she's poor. Like you're not going to get any opportunities. You have to create them yourself. And when she said education, I kind of thought, well, here I'm wondering, chasing this, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make a tangible impact with this whole degree and this privilege of getting to study something like this? What am I going to do? And her answer of studying, getting educated, I thought, I could figure out a way to create a scholarship. So I asked her in that second, I said, if I created a scholarship for you to come study in Thailand, would you come study with us?
Yeah.
And she was like, hands down, yes. This was October of 2009. Again, a couple months before that, I was just started my master's, started working at the UN. And I also, in the meantime, I love markets. I love meeting women who are making things and just building those relationships, which all over Thailand, there's so many beautiful handmade things. And so I thought, I can take all these. I knew exactly what I was going to do with this to generate the money. And so that was October 2009. My husband was like, I think this is awesome. Let's try it.
Wow.
I mean, let you try that. So I'm supposed to be writing my thesis on some trafficking, doing all these other things. But like what lit Brooke up was this. And so I started, connecting with all these women. They were taking me to their villages, 12 hours from where I was meeting them outside of Bangkok, and learning and seeing how they're making beautiful handmade silk, silver, all these different things. And I just bought what they had. I said, great, I love this. I want to buy whatever you have. They told me the price. I took it back to Lincoln, Nebraska in April of 2010 and had a trunk show at my parents' house, and everything sold.
Wow.
So I thought, and people were asking, like, where do we get more of this? I mean, they were fighting over bracelets and different things. And I thought, okay, we were home for a month. I created a business. The next month, she moved to Thailand to study with us. We were early 20s, 25,
Amazing.
and we were paying for our own education, all the things. And then here she's coming. And so there was some more nuance, but for the next 2.5 years, I basically did this whole project as a way to create her scholarship. So anything you bought from Sapahn, we gave all the profits back to the scholarship. And then it just started to evolve and grow from there. And at one point I was designing 9 product lines in 9 different villages all throughout the country. So it would take me 2,500 miles to get to all these different villages. And when I would get to them, they'd be like, Brooke, there's another village, 10K down the way. Oh my
goodness, right.
So it was just this whole like amazing web. And what I now call, what scientific terms are, it's a supply chain. But I didn't realize that when I'm, early days, not knowing anything about business or anything about fashion or retail.
Right.
But then I would come back to Lincoln, Nebraska and through the Midwest, and I'd have pop-up events from October to Christmas. The rest has kind of grown up to be a little bit more of history.
You've kind of become an accidental entrepreneur. I mean, I know
100%.
Very intentional,
100%.
Right? And very purposeful. It's like the business part of it is kind of all of a sudden I had this purpose, I had this dream, I had this vision, it was lighting me up. And then it became a business. And I think that's so awesome because a lot of people go into it the other way. They're like, I want to be in business. I want to be an entrepreneur, but what's my thing going to be? And you had the thing and it was so tied to your aspirations for the world, right? And I think that makes it magical.
Yes, it feels magical. And it feels like we just celebrated 14 years. And it's like, I never thought I'd be designing handbags and have this brand that so many women are connected to and really uphold in such different ways.
Wow. I love it, Brooke. I love it. So part of your journey now is you are Nebraska's newest certified B Corp. And I've never been so excited to not be the only one doing something anymore, right? Like KidGlov
Right?
is not the only B Corp in Nebraska. We're one of a handful, but up until December, we were the only female owned and founded B Corp. And now Sapahn is part of the club. So welcome to the club.
Thank you. It feels such like a great club to be a part of.
It is a great club to be a part of. And so I'm curious, what does the achievement of becoming a certified B Corp mean for you and the brand and your commitment to the future?
Yeah, I love this question. And so from starting off, we kind of started not the typical way of many, as you mentioned, many businesses, but in addition to how we run a business is very much bringing human rights principles and business together. There's a whole field that's new called business and human rights. There's guiding principles at the UN, and it started about the same time I did.
Wow.
And so we were part of, in our research, my husband and I were part of some of those early conversations with the UN that they were having at the time, back in 2010. But really bringing, how do we make that the foundation of how business is done? Because it honors people.
Yes.
And that's at the end of the day. Like, I think we would all agree exploitation and slavery is
wrong.
It's wrong. It's, so how do we then, do that? And so we've started from day one, all of our artisans set their own wages. So we honor this whole transparency, this whole accountability, them participating, the whole experience, that they are part of our whole system. Wow. And so we have a duty to honor them, to, do no harm, these types of principles, but it's all in action because we know them. Yeah. So it started from all these things. And now we've kind of always toyed with the idea, do we become a B Corp? Do we not? And because we have all the foundations of what a B Corp does. For the longest time, it was, I think we woke up to, we are doing this is hard already. Yeah. And it's even harder because we're alone doing it.
Yes.
Why are we alone doing this? There's so many people, 3,000 plus in just the US alone, of other B Corps who think like us, who are facing the same challenges and the same callings to do it differently. And it's like, it's so exciting to be in that group where different doors open, rather us and fighting against the grain of like, no, the best way to win isn't to like lower or increase my margins by asking my factory to give me better rates. Like that's not the answer.
Yeah.
And so to be around other aspiring brands and leaders, it just feels like a no-brainer, and very excited again to what all we can continue to collectively do. And part of it's also encouraging other people who are acting in the same way that Sapahn did or similar to also join this whole movement. It only empowers, at the end of the day, we want to empower and create awareness among customers, and we want to create more case studies. And it's like B Corp does that, for us all.
Absolutely. Brooke, we were on a parallel path to that, I think, at KidGlov, where someone had introduced us to the idea of B Corps, and we became more familiar with B Corps. And it was always kind of like, well, that's a nice idea that we will do someday. But right now we're busy with this, and we're busy with this, and we're busy with this. And then all of a sudden we decided to do it. And the amazing part of it is the community of people, the support. Anybody who's interested in the B Corp movement, I'd encourage them to check it out. It's surprising how many businesses really are already doing many of the things. And the B Corp assessment and process and community will help you solidify the practices and share them as well. So I think that's cool.
And it's been such an amazing roadmap also of going, oh, here's some opportunities that we can best business practices, right? Yes. These are like, you want a cutting edge of like how to do business better. Like the whole process isn't just a fluff. It's actually like helping you build a more robust, efficient business.
100%. It helps you understand how to be a better steward of the community and the environment, how to partner with and give back to the community, because you want to be part of a strong community. Absolutely. How to better take care of your employees and provide them opportunities that will help them grow as people, how to have better financial governance. So much of it's really such a great process. So I want to bring this back, Brooke. You've mentioned a couple times now about how you are really working with the artisans in different areas and really empowering them. I'm curious if you could tell us more about that and really the
Yes.
impact then that it has on them and their communities.
Yes. Well, this makes me, thinking about all of our artisans in Thailand just totally makes me light up. I got to spend 10 years there living side by side with all these
Wow.
communities. And really, this question, it's sometimes hard to really quantify. It's a qualitative
Yeah.
things that I hear all the time. And it's going to the villages and they're now at home raising their kids. So in this
Yeah.
part of the world and many part of the developing countries where we source all of our products from, people are forced to migrate in search of work. So
Oh,
at the UN, that's what we were research. People were leaving their whole families, everything behind to find because there was no economic opportunities and
yeah.
live, migrating with no money or even, you know, and under, very as you can imagine, if you're leaving with nothing, you're easily exploited. People
Absolutely.
can easily take advantage of you, and that would happen all the time. And so I kept thinking, how do you go to these villages and build business? How do you create and generate opportunities? Because there's so much opportunity where they could make and do all these beautiful things back in their villages and not have to leave their families behind. So moms can be moms,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
People can take care of one another. That financial and women having their own power to make their own money,
Yes.
so much financial freedom from that. The other thing that I was really surprised, and I don't know if I should have been, but when I asked a group of women who weave every morning or every day together, I was like, what's the Sapahn impact for you? And they said, Brooke, I thought it was economic. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's, finance. And they said, it's this community of women. We're
Oh,
not alone.
wow. Who would have
It's, I get to
thought?
come here. I know. And they're like, that to me is the most powerful thing. I have support. I'm not alone. I can encourage and support other people. We're in it together.
Yeah.
And there's this whole unity, I think. And especially with women, we can all automatically relate to that.
Yeah.
Those were some of the big things. The other, one of the other biggest things right when COVID hit, our artisans contacted us a couple days right after the news broke. And they were like, we see that there's, I was talking to them on the phone and they said, we see that there's a shortage of face masks. They're like, what if we take the lining from your bags, which is all dead stock? What if we use the linings of the fabric and make face masks for you? This will
Wow.
help keep us all employed because Thailand functions off of tourism. That's done, right? With COVID.
Yeah.
There was no, I mean, where a lot of other businesses had troubles of getting, source, we didn't. We had the opposite of like, how can we sell more to create more jobs? So all this whole
Wow.
community now has an opportunity. And our artisans are the ones who came to us and said, here's this idea.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. Yes. And so those are things during, like I said, during COVID and beyond, it kept people, fed and also their spirits alive.
Yeah. Both of those things were so important during that
Oh,
time. I
that
think that's
time.
really cool. Really
Mm-hmm.
cool. Brooke, any other stories? I'm a storyteller at heart.
Yes.
I love if you've got some stories of how your journey has impacted more people, just as you've shared.
Yeah. Well, one of the early stories that just kind of, again, helped propel this idea and keep me pushing. We were in a remote community in Myanmar, and this is when started thinking like, how can we do business differently? And that was we were there. We were trekking through all these really remote villages, different tribal communities, and there's one community had these gorgeous. We came up upon them, gorgeous bright orange scarves that they would tie up in their
Ooh,
hair.
yeah.
And I immediately was like, those are beautiful. And these women, kids were running around. They just got out of school and the kind of the schoolhouse. Through translations, my tour guide said, well, would you like to buy some? And of course, my eyes were like, yes, 100%. So all the women went back to their huts, their village, and brought out the stack of the ones that they had made and wove. I, asked them the price. I paid them exactly what they asked for. And they were beautiful. I mean, really nice cotton, vibrant colors. They were just so excited. And as we were walking away, there was so much chatter. And the guy says to me, he says, do you know what they're talking about? They're so excited. Do you know why? And I was like, no. And they're like, now they're able to buy a cow.
Oh,
So that
Wow.
transaction, and again, it might have been, I paid, a couple dollars more,
Right.
but it wasn't any, I mean, it wasn't anything like the
To
rates
you, it
or
was
the
very, very minimal. To them, it was
life
everything.
changing. Right.
Yeah.
And I kept
Wow.
thinking, wow, like, what does that other ripple effect look like? How does that, and if you go to the village, if you go and talk to them and communicate, and they're so brilliant, they have so many ways to be more resourceful and to generate. I think some of the missed opportunity that us as business owners and CEOs here in the US, we have all these big supply chains back in these countries.
Yeah.
It's not going to those places and it's not asking those questions. And that's where Sapahn's different. And that's why we're so powerful and resilient, is because we have those relationships and they're coming to us with solutions. And at the end of the day, people can't work, I think as an employee morale, it's like those are your biggest assets, or people,
Right.
and that stems to also, it starts from the people, maybe across the way.
I love that. I feel like, Brooke, there's been such an awakening.
Hmm.
And I think people want to be more thoughtful
I
about
agree.
how they use their buying power. And I think the magic of being a purpose-driven business is
Mhm.
that we can make it happen. We can communicate the stories. We can do things at scale.
Right.
We can be the conduit to help, consumers who want to use their money for good,
Hmm.
to people that can be helped, even if they're continents away. I think
Right.
that's what's amazing about what you're doing. So I'm curious, Brooke, for someone who is maybe at the point where you were in 2008, 2009, they're like looking forward to their future, or maybe there's somebody like me who's maybe later in their career and they're like, I want to make a difference. I want to be more mindful and impactful in my purchasing decisions.
Hmm.
What advice would you give them?
Yes. It's a powerful, I mean, you're totally right. We have so much power as consumers.
Yeah.
And the first thing I would think about is, how can you align your values with also with your purchasing power, like with what you're
Yeah.
buying. So
Yes.
where do you shop? Who do you shop from? Is it a woman-owned business? Is it small businesses? Is it part of your own community, or is it these large corporations? And if you go that route, what I tell people, just think, because everything that's made, there is a person right behind it.
Yeah.
So that is something that when I was in Thailand and Asia, I couldn't unsee, right? And I know many people don't have that opportunity to go see what the factories look like. I mean, and talk to the people themselves who are trying to, like we all, trying to want to raise a family. They want just basic needs, but because of the circumstances, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so these whole systems are really suppressing these people. And again, I think at the beginning, we all can say that exploitation is wrong. We would never want to support it. But the reality is we do support it if we're buying things that are cheap.
Yeah.
And you can tell they're cheap, right? The price, you're like, how does that work? That should be your first red flag.
Right.
And then also thinking about the businesses who you're buying from and supporting, that also can tell you a lot. And so I think, the fast fashion, they're made cheap, they're made to dispose. Like, we have I think I read a stat of 6 generations where we have enough clothes for 6 generations at this state. So I think when you are walking, that's the first thing. When you're walking into those stores to buy something, thinking about those, it's cheap, it's not going to
Yeah.
last. Is it going to last? Is it what not? So those are just some kind of like golden rules. But I think by seeking out and looking at, oh, what are the B Corp stamp or fair trade stamp or there's so many amazing brands out there who are doing this the right way. Yes, you might pay a little bit more than what you're going to pay at a fast fashion place, but just use some logic. You're going to be able to use that thing
Right.
so much longer
Right.
because it is quality. And you're aligning your values to that. There's a reason why it probably costs a little bit more, because they're paying people well. They're paying people a livable wage. And that, we all want to be paid a livable wage, right?
Yeah.
There's another, if you're shopping, there's another really great platform online called Wolf and Badger. Anything on that website, we're on there as well. It's all been vetted. They're all women owned, small business. They're all ethically sourced. So there's
Beautiful.
some really incredible, there's another app called the Good On You app. You can download that to your phone. You can kind of start seeing those things. And I would say, like, if brands aren't talking about it, they're probably not doing it
Yeah,
because they're like, I don't want to draw any attention, so I'm not going to say anything. But guess what? As
absolutely.
a customer, you have the power to push them to say something or choose not to shop them because they will feel that on their bottom line.
You're
They all
right.
do.
As soon as brands feel the sales start to slip, the income
Yep.
start to slip, they start to research, what are we doing wrong? What are people saying? So you're right. Your
And saying
consumer,
that, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
go
And
ahead.
telling, and as a customer saying, I'm not shopping you because of these principles.
Yeah, for sure.
Because oftentimes what the big businesses want to do is like, how do we make this cheaper? How do we like cut some costs? And it's all the little costs. And one of the things I'm most shocked about, and I think again, why supporting B Corp as other businesses, I read a stat that said with CEOs, the major CEOs in the US who also have global supply chains make 344 times more than their typical employee.
Yeah.
344. So when
Yes.
they come to us and say, or in general, and as consumers and say, well, we can't afford that, that is a
Right.
big fat lie, right?
Right. Right.
And
I
B
just,
Corp, the general B Corps are 6 to 1.
yeah.
6 to 1 is what B Corp brands, the ratio of pay is.
I so appreciate you saying that. I just saw something that said, hey, if you're complaining about the minimum wage making the cost of goods go up,
Mhm.
look at the salary of the CEO
Right.
and wonder if that is also making the cost of the goods go up. So I
100%.
appreciate that.
It's
Brooke,
the greed. So
you,
that's my soapbox.
I love it. I have to ask, and I wasn't going to ask you this, but I have to ask, do you ever get pushback for being so outspoken?
No,
That's amazing.
no. And a women come, so oftentimes people, at events or whatever, they're like, oh my gosh, these bags, like they feel them. First you
Yes.
walk into the booth or the area, you're like, oh my gosh, this is real leather because it smells amazing. It smells like the real deal.
Yes.
And the feel and the design thoughtfulness, because we love feedback, we love designing the next perfect thing. We're always rechanging our designs to make them even better. But then they're got their card out ready to purchase and then they're like, do you make these? And then it starts this whole beautiful conversation.
Yes.
It opens up to so much more than what this is. And that women are a part of. I think as women there's a lot of us, unfortunately, but it maybe our superpower, who have had some challenges because we're women along the way.
Yeah.
And it makes us almost stronger when we are like, you know what, I want to be that person who's supporting other women so they don't also have to suffer the way I did.
I love that.
And so the pushback, what we find is that just kind of creates more of like really like super fans that tell all their friends and that will tell me all the time, I gave away all my Louis Vuittons, all my luxury, and I buy Sapahn now
I love it.
because it doesn't align.
I love it. Brooke, you reminded me of one of my favorite sayings, and that is, you can always tell the strongest woman in the room because she's lifting others up and not tearing them down. And that makes me think of you, Brooke, and
Thank you.
the
That's
work
a
that
nice,
you're
amazing
doing.
compliment.
Yeah. So where do you go from here? I mean, you've done such big things already. You're a B Corp, you're this well-known brand, you're making beautiful products, you're uplifting women and communities. What's next for Brooke, Mullen, and Sapahn?
Yeah, I think about this often. And especially comparing myself to other entrepreneurs who have these like very clear visions of like exactly what it's going to be when they arrive. But
Yep.
as you know, Lynn, in business,
It
it's
doesn't
like
work that way.
you
Yeah.
know, which is beautiful. You're like, oh, I did that. That was, now I'm on
Yeah.
to the next thing. And the next thing for us at Sapahn is really, I think, one, being a case study of success.
Yeah.
And I think we're already doing that. Like, to the people, the naysayers who are like, why? What's the point? And my response back to them is like, well, you're exploiting people. So like, that's like, how are you winning at the game of business by doing that? Like,
Right.
that's really not winning. Right. And so by doing things the right way by people, for people in our communities, to be a business case to say, we did it with no funding. I was a sole entrepreneur for 10 years, 9
Love
years,
that.
no funding. And where all the big brands are saying, we can't be responsible for supply chain. We have, I'm like, you have all the resources to do this.
Yeah.
So no excuse again. I got on a train and whatnot, and I went there and I talked to them and I think that's also, you should use that as a leverage for if you're a business, but it's really to inspire other people, to be a case study of like, this is what, a success, and to hopefully inspire other businesses to change their ways and not be afraid of what they don't know, and use, their human supply chain as a powerful thing. It's also, and to those people who are wanting to start businesses, like people ask me, I get on calls all the time with other entrepreneurs saying, I want to source better. How do I do it? And really, at the end of the day, the more in fashion we can flip around and change this narrative, inspire and, talk to customers, the more jobs and opportunities we create across the board. And that's the beautiful thing about being a B Corp and doing the right thing, is the more you grow, the bigger your impact.
Absolutely. One thing that really excites me, Brooke, is seeing the research that's showing us that of all the generations, Gen Z has a 67% awareness of the B Corp brand. So, you go certain places and you say you're a B Corp, people don't know what that means. But I believe the younger generations that are coming up, which gives me amazing hope for the future, they are more concerned about making impactful purchasing decisions, and they are more concerned about what's behind the products and the businesses. And I love that. I love that for you. I love that for KidGlov. I love that for the world.
I love that for our world. Yes, for our community.
Yeah. So, Brooke, for our listeners who want to learn more about Sapahn, where can they find you?
Yes. Well, our website is sapahn.com.
Okay.
And sign up for the newsletter. It's beautiful. It's colorful. It makes you feel happy, and great stories along the way. You can always, find some more information about our story there, as well as on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me also on social on a personal level. So I love connecting with people, like-minded people, or even people who want to push back. That's okay. That helps us all sharpen our skills.
Starts the conversation. Yeah.
It starts a conversation. So if I could ask a favor, if you are listening and feel inspired by this, one of the things we want to do continuously is with B Corp and just being as our next level is spreading more awareness. So if it's, hosting, as you graciously have, Lynn, us on a podcast, or doing some type of collaboration where we could create some corporate swag gifts for you that are beautiful, buttery soft that you want to. Those are all welcomed opportunities.
What a great idea. This is a good time to start thinking about holidays, corporate swag gifts. I can only imagine. My staff is going to hear this, and I imagine lots of ideas are going to come back too.
Come back your way.
Which is fantastic. We'll make sure to put the links to the social media and the website in the show notes as well. I'm going to say I love following you, Sapahn, on Instagram. I love it when you show pictures and tell the stories of the artisans, because I think that's amazing. Of course, I love it when you show the handbags too. So I'd like to ask you my favorite question next, and I can't wait to hear what you have for us. But everyone knows I am inspired by motivational quotes, and I'm wondering if you could give us a few of your own words of wisdom to inspire our listeners.
Yes. There's a few that just bring in my head. So the one that rings in my head often is, Brooke, when I'm trying to this is so hard, right? Things are hard, things are whatever. I'm like, I think about the women in Thailand. I think about their stories and I go, don't give in to your weaker self. Don't do it.
Wow. Don't give in to your weaker self. I'm writing that one down. That's amazing.
And
I love it.
I think when you see again, the privilege of being and seeing people, Thailand's known as a land of smiles for a reason. Everyone smiles, everyone's happy. And I mean, that's kind of the nuance, but I think there's a great appreciation for the simpler things. And I think we can learn a lot from that, from, the West. I think also, yes, things can be difficult. And I think when the whole don't give in to your weaker self, it's like, are these self-limiting beliefs that I can't do something?
Yeah. Wow. Yes. So good.
Yeah, to live. That would be one of my, and then Sapahn always has had a tagline from the beginning of beautiful things, doing something beautiful and encouraging people to do that beautiful thing. So whatever that is for you, and being that bridge. So being that person who really, whatever it is that you're doing it so well that it's infectious and it, attracts other people, and it's at the foundation is making an impact.
Brooke, I love that about your brand, being in the business of branding. I love brands that have meaning behind them, like Sapahn, meaning bridge, and your tagline. I think they all go together so nicely and help tell that story. So good. Brooke, I have so loved this conversation. I loved getting to know you. I mean, that's one of the other great things about B Labs and B Corp certifications is it just brings like-minded people that are passionate together. But as we wrap up today,
yes,
what is the most important thing you would like our listeners to take away?
This was a great question because I had, several on my list, and I thought, oh, okay, priority. Oh, let's see.
Yep.
And I really think it's a hard thing to say because it's not the feel good thing, but it's also the inspiring thing because we as people have that choice. And I think somebody said it so well to me the other day. They said, Brooke, I donate every year to all these human trafficking survivor networks. But then I go and buy a Louis Vuitton, a brand name that I know that's contradicting that. Oh. So I'm supporting and giving money here, but I'm also part of the problem over here. And I thought, and they're like, you've helped me realize that's not alignment of values and and how I live my life. And I think, of course, we can talk about what that impacts for you as living your authentic self. That feels, when you do that, there's so much power and synergy in that. So I think sometimes it feels maybe monstrous to be like, how am I going to make a change or difference in the world? I want you to know that literally, again, everything you purchase, there is a the farmer there. And yes, you can't you're not the one who's going to be making sure those operationals are in checks and whatnot. There's systems out there that do, but that actual choice, there is a person behind that. And your impact can be super empowering and mobilizing, or it can be part of the problem. So I think when you're thinking about buying and what you're doing, if that can be that little noise in your head of and again, don't give into your weaker self of we can all make excuses of I need this. And if I spend $5 more here, just thinking about that, I think is a powerful thing. So that's what I would leave you with, is aligning those things. I think at our core, people want to do beautiful things.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're again, have to check ourselves.
Wow. Brooke. This is a podcast, so people couldn't see me slink back in my chair when you said that, but that's so powerful. It's so true. Every year we donate to causes that touch our hearts, and then we don't think about, or it's easy not to think about, how our shopping choices in the other 11 months of the year are creating the problem. Such powerful words. Thank you for that. And I have to say, thank you for the time today. This has been an empowering and insightful and delightful conversation. And I hope there are many more to come. So thank you for sharing.
I feel so
today.
on fire. I feel so on fire. And I thank you so much, Lynn, for being a champion for the B Corps out there and this community, and really allowing us to be on this platform that reaches so many people. So thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Brooke.
We hope you enjoyed today's Agency for Change podcast. To hear all our interviews with those who are making a positive change in our communities, or to nominate a changemaker you'd love to hear from, visit KidGlov.com at KIDGLOV.com to get in touch. As always, if you like what you've heard today, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.